I know and you know the power of the mind, but most people who come to see a doctor, they take their steering wheel and they give it to him and they say, okay,
Yes.
doctor, fix me now.
And I am a surgeon who would never want to see a patient after surgery. You know, this term patient is also very controversial.
Welcome to The Search for Wellness, a podcast dedicated to discovering the path to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Join us on this heartfelt journey as we share inspiring stories, insightful conversations, and practical tips to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. So, Dr. Mahendra, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Mahendra. I am a neurosurgeon practicing neuroscience for the last 28 years. And I'm also an artist. So I do paintings, photography, what we call as transcendental habits, and now these sprawling meditative fields. I am also deeply interested in meditation. I started meditating when I was in grade 12. So for me, initially, I didn't know what I'm doing. It just, a lamp in my puja place that attracted me that I should focus on it. And so I started doing that and I started liking that. And then I realized that when I'm doing it, I'm able to control my sleep and I'm also able to control my memory. So that was also a time I was going through a major change in my life, as I was not at all a student to look for. So I failed in subjects.
Okay.
I was never considered by my teachers. In fact, I was called as duffer of the class.
Okay.
And because I didn't know what to do, and then suddenly I reached a very big academic hospital somewhere, and in those times in India there were very few super specialists. So when I reached there, I found the department of cardiac surgery and neurosurgery. And then I said, what are these things? Because my father was a general practitioner and he wanted me to be general practitioner.
Okay.
And that was being doctor at that time. In my whole state of 60 million people, there was none. So we didn't know what to do. So my mind was still searching what to do. And I was a painter, which my parents didn't want me to do. So when I reached there, that clicked my mind and it opened a new space that I said, this is what I want to be. And when I came back, I was already in a college doing Bachelor of Science first year. And as soon as I came home, I told my father that I want to do this. And he said, how would you do that if you don't even study? So starting from that point, I realized that in 1 year, I covered from grade 8 to entire BSc course, which is 3 years, and the MSc course, which is like another post-graduation. So all physics books, all chemistry books, and chemistry has 3 parts. Physics has at least 2 parts. All of it I studied within 1 year with 14 revisions.
Wow.
And so I was sleeping only 1.5 hours every day, never felt tired, and whatever I read came as a photographic memory. In those times, I used to challenge my brothers and sisters that I'll sleep for 9.5 minutes and I'll wake up in 9.5 minutes. And they would use their watch. Those are the times when quartz watches were coming, those digital Chinese watches. So all my sisters and brothers, they had it. So they would say, okay, do it. And then I would read something and then I'll sleep, and in sleep I'm revising. At the same time, my mind is seeing the clock. And I was able to get up exactly 9.5 minutes. In those minutes, I had very systematically organized my memory. Then I didn't know what I'm doing. I was just revising. Then I became a neurosurgeon, so that was a 15 years course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pursuing your goal for 15 years, it requires something. And so it was only later that I went into the neuroscience. So that's how I went into meditation. So now I call as the guy who is filling the gap between the tangible and intangible, so that people can understand and they should pursue more of meditative practices so that their life becomes more purposeful. Even it helps in business, it helps in everything, it helps in your friend circle, it helps in your life. So
And that's how we connected also due to meditation.
It was so good to find you on our group.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to tell you that, let me, because I've seen so many people, they talk about meditation,
Yeah.
but they don't know meditation. And many of those, particularly from the Western religions, they're only supported by industry.
Yeah.
People coming from eastern side, and it all started from India. Although the West has picked up only Buddhism, because they were the people when the research was happening in 1920s and 30s and 40s, is when the quantum physics was increasing, the realms of quantum physics and subatomic realm that was expanding. And if you have seen the recent movie called Oppenheimer, so Oppenheimer was a fan of Gita, because Gita is one of those, they learned Sanskrit. There were German scientists who came to India and they learned Sanskrit because they could reach the what do we do of the applied science of subatomic or quantum physics. How to apply that in real life is given in the Hindu scriptures.
And this is a movie that you're talking about that they have?
The Oppenheimer movie. So there are so many now. It's available on Prime Video, and if you go on any of quantum physics and its evolution, you would find that in 1940s, when scientists in the West were trying to find out the realm of subatomic behavior, they became more Hindu in their beliefs, because they thought that they came to know that this is already done by our rishis thousands of years back. So recently I was going through the universities which started mindfulness, and it started with Mr. Zinn in UCLA, in MIT.
Okay.
Now most of the people, whether we or in the Eastern world, the new generation after the colonialism, they only wanted to look to West. And remember, science was found by West only in 1920s to 30s to 40s. So they want reasoning for everything.
They want results for everything, right?
So so unless it is proven, they don't approve it. So for us, plane didn't exist unless someone created it. But planes existed thousands of years back in Hindu scriptures.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem with science is you have to get it done, and that's a long way. And in our scriptures, so in Eastern world, we have traveled far just with our minds. We didn't need planes to go. So if we look back 5,000 years in future towards West, they will say we send the Apollo mission and we send these and that spacecrafts. You don't find such things in Eastern world.
Yeah.
Particularly, it all starts from India, because Japanese have acquired and Chinese have acquired whatever Indians had. So all meditative practices, Buddhism started from India.
Yeah.
So everything starts from here, but as subjects to study, Western people found Buddhist more, and that was also the time gradually the conflicts between China and Tibet was happening, where Buddhism is practiced in the purest form.
Yeah.
So these monks went to West, and then they also became the subjects. So in 1950s, Americans were studying the power of meditation applied to warfare.
Okay.
And it's in public domain now. So they were meditating and they were trying to find out what Russia is doing. And so they were able to sketch what they were creating. So they, through meditation, came to know the first space program of Russians. Even as early as in Operation Thunderstorm, when Americans invaded Iraq, they did not know where the biological weapons were. And so they were using meditation practices to fix the targets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've learned a lot of it from Greg Braden, who is a world famous geologist, who had this program called Missing Links. It's a 52 episode program, and I would recommend everyone should see that.
Okay.
Because it will cover practically everything that we can think of, right from civilizational evolution to meditative evolution to scientific evolution, and everything put together on one single scientific platform.
Yeah.
So it's a study of civilization, human evolution, all of that. And then he has compared the modern science and the wisdom of the old Mayan culture or the ancient Hindu culture, Buddhist culture, all of that put together.
When you were saying that our culture is like the Hindu culture is where meditation came from, but I feel like there is also this aspect where the west side of it has also created such an awareness, especially because a lot of it's been backed with science. And like Dr. Joe always says, that if you bring religion into it, then you lose half the people. If you bring spirituality into it, you lose more people. But the minute you back things up with science, I guess this is why you studied neurosurgery, I'm assuming.
I, being a scientist myself,
Yeah.
and scientist doesn't mean who only do research, and I also know how research is, 80% research is manipulated. Okay, there is a whole group
Wow.
of neurosurgeons who are against evidence-based medicine, because evidence-based medicine in itself has become an industry.
It's true, very true.
So now everything you can manufacture evidence, right?
You can pay somebody to manufacture your
evidence.
evidence.
It has been paid. New England
Yeah.
Journal and other things. There recently there were reports which came out wide in public that New England Journal had been doing it, and it's one of the oldest journal, most respected journal.
Wow.
And then people have been sponsored. The studies are sponsored. So now I have got so many friends who are free thinkers. Like I'm also one of the free thinkers. Boundaries, I don't like.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with people who have boundaries, because for me, boundary means limiting yourself to certain beliefs that okay, neurosurgery can only do this. Evidence-based and science is only trying to learn now. It's like when you have a child in your family, they ask you every question and then you have to answer them. Isn't that the science?
And the interesting thing about children is that they're so inquisitive. They really want to learn, so they'll keep asking. And a lot of parents will be like, "Oh, nothing. You don't need to know that."
Yeah.
But it's so important to also bring that awareness that the minute we start changing their belief system from such a young age and telling them it's not important for them to know, when they're older, they'll lose interest in many things because they'll be like, "Oh, well, it's not important for me to know that."
Yeah.
So
that's and at this juncture, I would like to say that children should be exposed to meditative practices far earlier than we think.
Yes.
So I introduced meditation to my 14-year-old girl very recently, when she had a problem with her, the girl politics of school, and she became close to only one student, and then the others, they just put her out of the group. And so I said, you can manipulate what they think about you in a positive way. You don't have to take it in a negative way. Don't misuse it. But because so many meditative practices say that it will not work if you try to manipulate someone in a negative way.
Yes.
So I said it's only about how you feel better in a positive way. So I told her that start meditating as if all of them are coming to you and talking to you, and then everything is good. So I said focus on the outcome. And then within 2 weeks, she was able to establish many new friendships.
Friendships, yeah.
And the old ones also came. So again, the science conflict is that I have seen your perfectly reasoned program may not work for you. A perfectly reasoned surgery may not work for you. Okay? So you have to think differently and do differently. Science does not answer it. So just like a small child or young child wants to have reasoning for everything, like you tell your child to do this, and they'll say why?
Why, yes.
But you know that there's a bigger perspective to this, and they don't know it. So it's also found not everyone has to become spiritual. A certain percentage of population, which may be even as low as 1%, if they are into meditative practices, the world will become a better place.
So how do you use meditation in your practice, in your daily practice, for yourself and maybe for your patients too?
So your life also has got multiple aspects of survival. Ultimately, first is survival. that what you are working should get success. You should get a certain type of people, or people should work for you, and all those things come as first. Then if I'm a surgeon, then I'm also looking for my outcomes, and then apart from all of that, you also want your inner peace, your inner balance. So in all these aspects, meditation definitely works. When I came here, I was stuck in COVID.
Yeah.
Everything locked down. I came to work in a hospital, and that hospital refused to make what we wanted to do. So I'm an epilepsy surgeon. No one does epilepsy surgery in Africa.
Okay.
So there's 25 million patients in entire Africa, and at least half of them will need some kind of surgery. So that's why I came for. And then they said, we have to build the theaters and everything, and now we are on a bailout, so we can't do anything for you. I started sitting and started meditating because I wanted to meet people, because how do you do it? I can't go to India, the flights are blocked. I had an anxiety that my wife was working in a COVID hospital. I have 2 kids. And in those times, people were just getting disappeared if they had COVID in hospitals.
Exactly. They would go in
They were
and not come
packed
out.
and burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? And they were not told, because the entire management chain collapsed.
Yeah.
So I would think, what would happen to my family, and then what would happen to me, and then that is the time when I realized that submission to the Almighty is the only way.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you do that? So I started exploring more and more about meditation, and then I came to, I had been listening to Joe Dispenza earlier as well, but that was a time when I started integrating more into neuroscience and more into my daily practices. And so first I created a belief that I am sent for a purpose. Why would I am trained in epilepsy surgery from 2004 onwards, and I was not able to practice despite all of my desire till this, we are talking of 2020.
Yeah.
So I said, why this desire is still in me in all these 15 years? So probably I'm sent on a purpose here. And then if I'm sent on a purpose, then I just leave it to the universe or God or whatever you say, and let's see, someone should help me get settled here. Someone would take care of me. I don't know how and why. And then one day, once I finished my meditation, when we hear all of this in a podcast, we think it's all manufactured.
Yeah.
But when it happens to you,
Yeah.
now I think someone else would listen to it and they would say, oh, this guy's manufacturing. It's real that every day I was thinking someone powerful will help me settle down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I got called from a billionaire doctor whose sister I helped in India 4 years back. And he said, last time we talked was last year, so are you still here? I said, yeah, I'm here. So he said that I have a friend who wants to do a camp. She's a politician, and she wants to do this, and you do all of these things, cerebral palsy treatment, epilepsy, so can you be with us? I said, why not? So they called me to Eldoret, and then I met this politician, and I had an experience only with Indian politicians. So I just did my job, came back. And I'm still thinking, I got an evacuation order for the house, and where do I go when I'm not even earning?
Uh-huh.
And then I'm thinking, and I'm now meditating even more powerfully, is this problem should be solved. And I didn't know how to start my private practice here. So then I got a call again after finishing my meditation that the politician who I worked for, she lives in Kittusuru. So the secretary called and said that we wanted to send you a letter of thanks, and so give me your email address. So I said, okay. Then in my heart I thought, I wish they asked what problem I'm going through. Yeah. And then after 10 minutes, she called back and she said that Maheshima is asking if since you are new and it's COVID situation, Are you finding any trouble so we can help you?
Amazing.
Exactly what I was thinking. So I said, yes, I have a problem with the work permit and I wanted to meet. So I was called the next morning. Then I said, this is the problem. So I have the work permit for 2 years, but I don't have a license to practice outside. So she is also a very big lawyer of this country. So she said, okay. She took me to the head of permit sections. And she said, this doctor is here, he's talented, he's doing something unique for us. I don't want him to go. How can we help him? So they said, just open your company and then we will help you. So she gave me her house, which was vacant at that time in Kileleshwa. And she said, start your practice here, and then their lawyers registered my company and all of it free of cost.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So you manifested every single thing.
Every single thing.
And everything you wanted, you managed to achieve.
Yeah.
And when it comes to your patients, how have you used this technique? Because, at the end of the day, I know and you know the power of the mind. But most people who come to see a doctor, they take their steering wheel and they give it to him. And they say, okay, doctor, fix me now.
Yeah.
But then as a doctor and as a neurosurgeon, and it's somebody who understands the power of the mind, I'm pretty sure you go, no, this is your steering wheel. Let me teach you how to drive your car.
Exactly. My wife is a Brahmin, so she would always tell me that you should always pray before surgery. And I always prayed. And we come to the city of Mahakal, and Mahakal is considered to be the axis of time. Okay, so many people won't believe that, but that's how the historical. So we have that in our mind, that, and Mahakal can only give you health and life, nothing else. That's the form of Mahakal, because there are Jyotirlingas. Later on, I realized when I came here, when I was integrating my meditative practices with outcomes, I realized that whenever I am praying and going, I am seeing some complication, even if it was minor.
Wow.
And I am a surgeon who would never want to see a patient after surgery, meaning they should go back to their lives. This term patient is also very controversial. Like you are Pooja, okay? Pooja, the girl who is doing all these things. You fell and had a very minor injury or maybe just a pain, and you go inside hospital to show to a doctor with a very minor issue, and you become a patient. You know Raman Pooja, the digital creator.
Exactly.
And that's where I think many problems of hospitals lie, is that you can't see them as patients. You have to see them person with problems. And you can see that and just decouple that problem with the person, you may have better outcomes.
So true.
So I realize that when I'm praying, what am I asking? I shouldn't have complications, right? And then again, if you know the language of universe, is it doesn't hear no or yeah,
exactly.
It doesn't hear, it will remove no. So it will say there should be no complications. No is removed, so there should be complications.
Completely.
Because I'm coming from the point of fear.
Yes,
Exactly. I got someone very, like if I operated a VIP or a very important person or someone who knows my community well, so they can go and tell 10 people that, this guy did this with me.
This podcast was created to inspire and connect with people. If you are liking the content of this podcast, hit the subscribe button, like, follow, and share this platform. Lots of love.
As we were talking about the outcomes, meditation applied to outcomes, we had one patient in which we were doing one country's head of state's sister I was operating. And we were putting rods and screws in the spine. And then there was something which I thought could turn into a major complication. And I always claim that my patients walk the same day home after spine surgery. So we are also lifestylizing the spine surgeries. And I have got the shortest hospital stay even in brain tumor patients. So my brain tumor patients go third or fourth day typically home walking. So I thought that my assistant has done something which can cause a major complication in this surgery. And this patient was so important for me because it's a sister of the head of state.
Yeah.
And so that night I spent meditating, not on that something should not happen, but on that when I'll meet her, then I would find her bicycling. Although she is 72 years, but I know she comes from a village, and they do everything through bicycles. So that I did that day, and next day when I went there, she was in extreme pain, and her heart rate was more than 120. So I know something internal is going on, and so I said, just do rest, do nothing, and we discharged the patient same day. So she was in a hotel, and I'm going to see her in hotel. And for 3 days, her heart rate was 120, 125, 132, something like that. And I'm still, all those days, I was just meditating, focusing on the good outcome of that patient. And eventually she went home. By fourth day, the heart rate started going down, and she went home. And then when I was invited to see in the presidential house, I saw that lady coming from the bicycle.
Amazing.
So we can only say now, when I look back at my data, that no infection. So recently I operated a lady, and she sent me a picture with that, there is a minor strange discharge from the skin, and I found it's a superficial infection, but even that I've never seen. So, and then when you're doing surgeries, infection is like, usual rate is 10 to 15% in developing countries.
Yeah.
And I have practically 0%, no death in 5 years. Of course, it also comes from wisdom that you're choosing your cases wisely. But there was a point when we always thought, and even today we say, as neurosurgeons, we should not even laugh in our minds on others' complications, because same thing you will see in your case.
Wow.
So neurosurgery is a very humbling experience. And
but it's so good to have such a mindset like that. So when we talk about meditation, what kind of meditation practice do you use? Is there something to do with the brain? Is it something to do with, could you just give us some sort of details into that?
Different minds, just like when we do gym.
Yeah.
So many people do gymming or exercises to keep their well-being. Everyone would find their zen in one particular exercise or meditative practice is more like your choice of music. Okay, your mind will tell you what kind of practice you would need. I would only say one thing, that the central dogma of doing meditation is, why should you do it? Because Vivekananda said once, what's the purpose of us in life? Do you know that? Can you say that?
What's the purpose of us in life?
Anyone, like if you ask this question to yourself, what would be your answer?
What is my purpose?
I'm asking of not your purpose.
Yeah.
But in general, if we are human beings, and in Eastern philosophy it is said that you got this chance.
It's an opportunity to do good. I do believe in reincarnation, so I definitely believe that I'm blessed to be who I am today, but I have earned and achieved the person that I am today. And if I continue to do good and be good, then hopefully I will be elevated to a better planet, maybe a better place.
Yeah, so we are the ones who started the concept of multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now the Spider-Man is showing the concept of multiverse is already written.
Yeah.
Okay. Thousands of years back in scriptures. So you gave me the answer in part, that you said that you earned it. But how did you earn it? So what's the difference between me and an insect? Insect doesn't know anything.
It's the intelligence.
Yeah. Not intelligence, consciousness.
It's the consciousness, yes.
You know, a snake can have a better intelligence than us for killing.
It is the consciousness, yes.
He knows exact point where he can hit you, or maybe a leopard or a lion. When it comes to survival instincts, you can have a different intelligence. But so as Swami Vivekananda said, that your sole purpose on earth as human being is you should die with higher consciousness compared to what you came with. So an insect doesn't know what's its purpose, so it's just food and sex, so that's it. when in our life, if we apply, if we, so many people are here. I was talking to someone so engrossed in club life and drinking, and then they're hitting the club hard on Friday night and enjoy it to Saturday, and then Sunday have relaxation, and then work hard 5 days and successful in the work. But then anyone I talk to I talk about meditation, and they said they were enjoying their life. So they said, why do we even need it? And so that was first time when I thought that, okay, there are few people for whom their life is going almost perfect for them. They are happy. Why do they need them? You need them to create a larger perspective.
Yeah.
To impact larger. So, in fact, I know a CEO, very successful CEO of this country, who is a head of entire African region. He was telling me that my son, both of his sons are in US, and he told me that whenever I go and address my distributors, as soon as I come, whatever I offer, they just accept it. But before going to that, he always does a certain kind of meditation. Yeah. So there are like transcendental meditation and all of this, because I am certainly very closely associated with music. Music does wonders to my mind. And then I started learning more about solfeggio frequencies, that what kind of meditation. Then I saw a massive change in my own life. My wife, who was always in a very negative mindset and thinking about how this problem could be solved, particularly during COVID times. And that's when she started doing chakra meditations. And then she was a person people wouldn't talk to. She is very beautiful, very honest, but somehow she used to tell me that no one gets attracted with me. People are always feel like they are afraid of me. They don't reach out to me. And then days came when she is attracting so many hundreds of friend requests are coming on Facebook, and there are always people who want to help her, protect her wherever she goes. Recently she went to Italy, and she worked with someone for a short period of time. Another professor was there right from the airport to next 5 days, taking her everywhere with the car and spending for her. Or like COVID times, she was not sent. She's an oncologist, and she was never sent to a COVID hospital. So this chakra meditation, I believe, works very, very strongly. I'm a very strong propounder of chakra kriya and chakra meditations.
Do you work with the brain waves?
Yes, I work with. I mean, it's more important to understand that in the first place.
Exactly. A lot of people don't understand
the
brain waves.
Because people want to find the scientific reasons, and I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to get connected to you. There are two sciences people should look into. One is the quantum physics, and the brain waves. So quantum physics said, and subatomic realm said that things are not as they are seen, we perceive them. And I'll also add another layer. If someone has seen a series called 1899 on Netflix, where you're stuck in a ship, and then ship goes, it gets stopped in the middle of the sea, and you don't know where to go, and then people start killing each other, and then things are happening. So human behavior, okay, so that ship is akin to planet Earth, where we are stuck with each other, and then we kill and we fight and all of those things probably. So at the end of it, some people come to know it's a simulation. And there's so many people talk that we are actually living in a simulation, and our true self is living somewhere else in a multiverse. So there are different outcomes, and so if we unite all of these things together, we'll realize that probably we should be in a wave form than a particle form. So what's that? Is that an atom is mostly in a wave form, and when it's a wave form, it's just a possibility. And when you observe it, it becomes a particle form. So we can observe it. Just like when a teacher is not there in a class, the students are everywhere. So you can't say that one boy A will be on this particular bench. He can be anywhere. He can be jumping out of the window. He can be near window. He can be drawing something on the board.
There are many possibilities.
Is endless. So now when you In quantum physics, when you are showing the position of a particle, it's always shown in a waveform. Okay, and waveform is a possibility. In meditation, you want to unite with the waveform of the, there is a concept called the field, or the intelligence, or the global intelligence, which we say universe has its own intelligence. So when you do meditation, you have to achieve those frequencies where you are one with that with that frequency of the intelligence of universe, where you will create possibilities. If you are one with something, it starts happening. That's when the manifestations happen. So brain waves, like when you get up early, and then people think that they can do meditation anytime. They can do that only in the later part of practice.
But it's important to actually do a daily meditation practice first thing in the morning, because your brain is still in that sleep state, which is
now
theta.
What's most beautiful thing is happening because of particularly mindfulness. There are so many takers of mindfulness, because Western people, and it started with Mr. Zinn in MIT, is that they started creating scientific data and observations, and then MRI came. And then they started doing functional MRI studies during meditation, and they started studying the waves. So there are alpha waves and beta waves and theta and delta. So alpha waves are when we immediately get up in the morning, when we are totally relaxed. It's a relaxation wave. That's when you should do meditation, so you can reach easily into the states where at least your anxieties are gone. Because the moment you start thinking, okay, I have to do this today, I have to go to bank, I have to submit a report to the boss, or say for me, I have to operate a patient, anxiety will start. That's beta wave. And then there is a theta wave, and then gamma waves. So the higher waves are coming from, we call as brainstem. And in Eastern practice, which my daughter has also done, and there's so many is doing in India, is that there's something called brainstem activation, very common in Thailand, where kids can read without seeing. So my daughter, I have seen myself, she was doing it. You show her anything with the eyes closed in the darkness, she will put a stick in a straw without seeing. So we actually started a center in India with my friend, and her daughter was able to bend a fork of steel.
Wow.
By not even touching it. And this is a very common practice in Thailand, by the way. So all of these, when you unite together, it's all about, once you start learning what waves you are going into. So if I talk of neuropsychology of meditation, is when you are doing only 20 minutes of meditation, the studies have found that the stress levels, the anxiety and separation and pain, all of it reduces by at least 20%, even in the beginners.
Yes.
Okay. And there is something called as a executive part of brain, which is the frontal cortex or prefrontal cortex, where the activities are planned. It's also something which looks at you, which can tell you that you are not good enough, or what are you doing. It's more into reasoning. And then there is something called a cingulate cortex, which gives us an emotional basis to do whatever we are doing. And then there is the hippocampus, which also gives us a positive feeling. And then there is amygdala. So amygdala is all about fight and flight mechanism. So when you are doing meditation, different parts start growing differently. It will stop it will reduce the blood flow in amygdala, which is fight and flight. So you would start fighting and flighting from situations. You would start finding solutions. So now more blood will go into prefrontal cortex and cingulate cortex, called ACC, or anterior cingulate cortex. So there is now getting a disconnection between the emotional part, which is also like posterior cingulate cortex. So there is a disconnection happening, because posterior cingulate cortex is all about why it was done to me. Like if you have gone through a breakup of a relationship, and then you go into all that, why it happened with me, why did someone do that, and then imagining, so as we say, we suffer more in imagination than in actual.
It's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
If you are a breakup with someone, then you said, okay, maybe she's doing this and she's enjoying with someone else and this and that. Maybe that person has got his own suffering or some own reasoning. But we suffer in our imagination more. So that's all posterior cingulate cortex.
Yeah.
So, and you are not planning your life. in those suffering times. So meditation breaks that circuit. It reduces blood flow in the posterior cingulate cortex, reduces blood flow in the amygdala. So these things are very important. And then when you do meditation, the thalamus gets activated. That's where the gamma waves are there. So it starts pulsating from front to back. It unifies most of the good centers of brain. And then you feel less of non-connectedness. Like, when you're in a grief period, someone died, you feel you're alone. You are the only one who's suffering. No one is looking at you. But when people do meditation, they feel more connected to the society, even when they're alone.
Yeah.
They feel connected to the whole.
But also, in one sense, I think it's where people have this fear of being on their own. You can almost overcome that fear of being on your own just by meditating, because when you're meditating, you realize that you're not alone, because you're part and parcel of every single thing on this planet and in the universe. You're a particle of it.
I was doing meditation, chakra meditation with Jeffrey Allen, and it's an online program. And then he says that you have to say hello to everyone who's connected in this program, in today's class and in the past classes and classes of the future. So you start imagining you are connected to so many people.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this is intangible. So someone who was always looking for science and reasoning would say, what this stupid idea is all about. So there's some points where you have to just leave it to the field, to the, you can't reason everything.
No, you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where, science fails. Right?
Yes.
And that's where people like us have to understand the failures of science, that unless you do it, it's not science. Right? So like, there was so-called as inhuman performance by the Eldoret runner, who before him, that marathon less than 2 hours was not possible.
Yeah.
But he did that.
Yes.
And now you will find in future so many people would do less than him.
Yes.
So
because he set the benchmark.
It's achievable, and then science will start studying, how did they do that? By the time they do it, someone has already surpassed that thing. So science doesn't explain everything. So in meditation, I would say you have to read about Vipassana, you have to read about transcendental meditation, about mindfulness. I think mindfulness is good because it's very simple, and it just says that be in the moment. It is not easy, but at least it's practicable.
Yes.
With time. And when you do more, and most of the studies of functional MR and everything is done through these particular method. So with mindfulness, now we have got so many data together, so it's better to accept by people. So I do chakra meditation more, but if I want to teach someone, I would teach more of mindfulness, because it has got simple 7 pillars.
Yes.
And then you have to, and just 4 days of teaching is enough.
So would you incorporate, let's say now, if I was your patient and I had a surgery from you, and then you could see that my physical, mental health maybe was not stable, and I was in this whole fear, would you be able to like guide me through and say, okay, no, let me show you some little tools and tricks that you can use?
I have examples for it.
Yeah.
Examples. I claim that I am one of the best headache the guy who treats headache best. Perhaps few of the best in the world, at least in India and Africa. Because my methods are different, and then I'm also connecting with, I'm not seeing you as you, but you as a thought process. So I got a girl who sadly was gang raped in a club.
Oh God.
Saddest part was when she told me this, she smiled.
Oh my God.
How much would it take for you to smile while telling you were gang raped? Let alone a rape. And she was like just 22 or 23, a young soul. And I was so disheartened by her story, and I just wanted to hug her, but in clinical practice, I wouldn't do that. But then I embraced her with my words, and I said, look, and she would come with a very severe back pain. And then she had headaches. So, and she didn't tell me in the first place, by the way. But I couldn't find a scientific basis of a problem. So I said, for me, there is something in you which is eating you and which is causing this symptom.
Yeah.
Because I did the MRI and MRI was normal. I said, a lot of things coming from imagination. So she said that one of the guy was doing it so violently, I think my disc has ruptured and all that. That's where half-cooked science works against you. So I don't tell people to Google symptoms. Because you read for a day and you want to be a doctor, and I spent 20 years becoming a doctor.
And the minute you Google something, oh my God, Google will want to make you go and kill yourself.
Sick. Yeah, this third year of medical science in India is where you start studying pathology, and then you study diseases, and that's called as a year of hypochondriacs. So hypochondriac means you imagine all the diseases happening to you.
Exactly.
So when we are in a lunch hour and then we're talking, I have got a irritable bowel syndrome, and another friend will say, yeah, I also think I have this thing. So because you're studying that, so in Google the same thing is happening.
Exactly.
So I said, no, something else is there. So then she said there's a rape happened and all that, and then I told her about the meditation, and I said there's nothing there. It's all about your meditation, and it's so beautiful to see this. This girl was a digital marketing lady, and they were all in during those COVID times. So unemployment and all of these things were making them more anxious. And then every now and then she keeps sending me messages, that because of all those things, I'm so good now, and started working and all that, and pain had gone and everything is gone. But here, pain is still something which is psychological.
Yes.
What about the physical symptom, having a cancer?
Mm-hmm.
So I had our neighborhood lady, very compassionate lady, totally in love with her 2 sons. And both her sons betrayed her during COVID times.
Yeah.
And very rich lady. She got stomach cancer within 1 year of suffering. Okay, because both are, and we have lived together 5 years, and we every now and then we'll go there and eat together and all of that. And so we knew how happy she was. She used to put quotes on Facebook who would have likes of 35,000, 15,000, 20,000, like that. She was so happy. And then both her sons, they just betrayed after, they kind of abandoned her. And she was so much in mental suffering, she manifested it as cancer. Okay, so we can someday talk about the manifestation of disease through mind. So when she developed cancer, a critical duct of gallbladder was pushed, so she had very high jaundice. So normal is like 0.5 to 1.2. Her, she was 22. So about 20, it becomes incompatible with life beyond a point, because your white cells stop working, so you can't, your white cells will not protect you from infections.
Yeah.
So you'll die of infections, just like AIDS. So that was the time. I was so thick into this DNA change through meditation and all of that. I was going through all these programs, and the healing power of water and healing power of soil and all of that thing. I said, okay, we are going through something together. So we would meditate together. Okay, we will. So chemotherapy was denied to her because of very high bilirubin.
Yeah.
She had a very high jaundice. So then I said, okay, you have to put your feet in soil for every day 15-20 minutes, and then talk to water. And if you talk to water, water is the next memory substance in all these research institutions. The next memory stick will come out of water.
Exactly.
Okay, so because water hears everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in few weeks, her bilirubin went down to 3 from 22.
Amazing.
And we have the reports with us. She survived 2 more years when she was given only 3 months. So then her chemotherapy started. She went into a regressive period, but then she was also going through trauma. You don't become an expert of meditation like the sages within few days. So
it's a continuous thing. It's something you have to. It's a daily practice. You have to show up for yourself.
Exactly.
Even after you feel better, even after you feel well, you still have to keep doing the practice. You still have to keep showing up for yourself.
So with the studies by MIT and by there is also a very beautiful TV called UCTV, University of California TV, where is Dr. Zedon. So they have done these publications that when you're doing 20 minutes of just mindfulness practice, just 20 minutes every day, then things start reducing. So you don't need to be an expert in doing all of these things. And then the outcomes that they have shown, and all these data are available. So you just, maybe for beginners, You can start with mindfulness, and then gradually you should go into chakra meditation and all of this. If you want to be a powerful manifester, then obviously you have to go higher and higher.
And higher, yeah.
And I have seen one of the guys in Rishikesh, who I happened to attend, had a brain hemorrhage, which I thought has got a 90% mortality. So, and people from everywhere are calling me, and he's got a very big ashram in Rishikesh. Politicians are calling me, and even Muslims are calling me for this guy, that, do something, you are the only one who can do it. And I said, okay, I need to put a tube in your brain so that we can drain this blood. And this guy is 80 years old, and he's so healthy, and he says, no, I don't want it. Then I thought in my mind that maybe they don't want to hear science.
Yeah.
But he was on TV after 2 weeks.
And he was fine.
He was fine. So,
the power of the mind.
Power of mind, power of meditation. They are doing it day in and day. They live in that meditative space.
Yeah.
And so...
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that you have managed to share so much insight with us and so much information. And it's really nice for me to have a humbled and very humbling for me to have a doctor like you on this podcast to share stuff like this. And I just hope through this platform, more and more people will listen, will come out, will hear you, will hear that how powerful the mind is and how our mind can help us adapt to any sort of outcome we want in the future.
Exactly.
So on that high note, we're going to end today's episode. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahendra, for gracing us with all this information and for sharing so much stuff. I feel like I have learned so much from you. I'm going to have to probably watch this episode too many times to just keep reliving it again. But it was really, really nice. So thank you so much for today.